The layout of Moscow land. Look, here is Moscow, here is Novgorod and Astrakhan, here is the sea, here are Perm, thick woods. Pushkin. Pushkin saw all immense Russia as if from the skies and marked Permanent as a landmark measuring time and space. And not by chance, these lines are included into a folk drama Boris Godunov. Pushkin has had superb knowledge of the native history and has noted the most significant in it. Perm opens to a stranger in different ways, from the air, the river, and the railway station. Each gateway of the city favors a guest each time the unique face of Perm. For me, Perm started with a native home, vintage streets, hidden nooks, which every boy had, with the key of the Kama River, without which I do not imagine neither the city nor my fate.
Набережной большой Уральской реки Камы, без которой не мыслю ни города, ни своей судьбы.
Our fellow townsman Mikhail Azorkin, a writer, said the following of the feeling of a river. Each biography shall feature a river. Without a river, the childhood is dull, and the youth is not blessed. The old age comes earlier without it, and before that, the thought becomes dry and loses its freedom. Each faith is anticipated by its own Jordan. Only a big river gives knowledge of true freedom and spaciousness. In the 60s, there was a popular hit with such lyrics. People see in dreams their native cities, someone Moscow, someone Paris. Wherever I have been each time, I return to Perm. Nostalgic sound makes my feeling to the city broader. I feel it as a part of big life. I think of Russian towns, of their ancient and mysterious beginning, lost in distant codes. I wander over the world and read the history of Slavonic nation.
Склоняюсь и читаю по слогам историю славянского народа.
My Perm, with its special face and destiny, is a page that was small one in the history of the native land. I want to read it, and you, and look closely at my city. We fly to the place where Perm land started. Perm started with the copper works. The location was selected under a statute of Peter I by an outstanding scientist Tatishev. He was the author of the history of the state of Russia in many volumes. Here, the development of the mining and metallurgical business began in Russia. In the 18th century, all Russian copper was smelted at the Urals. At this very place, in the vale of the Egoshiha River, where hangs an old bridge, stands the first stone building of Perm, the Cathedral of Peter and Paul.
Петропавловский собор, начинался будущий город.
Craftsmen settled Perm and its neighborhood. They established themselves and built durable houses. Sometimes big fires happened, but we may be proud of the talented, old-time skilled craftsmen who built without a single nail granaries, Russian baths, chapels and sultans. That is why a saying appeared, Perm resident, salty ears. First of all, we take our guests to Hochlovka, which is located opposite the mouth of the Chusovaya River, to show them what we admire ourselves, the vintage wooden architecture of our land, peasant log huts, the watchtower, which, according to a legend, remembers the days of medieval peasant insurrection. Here, everywhere yesterday and today are as two landmarks of the indivisible history. It is not so easy to differentiate between tomorrow and today as it may seem at first sight. All beautiful cities to which I attribute my poem without any hesitation were built by the life itself. This resulted in the inimitable and elusive harmony and charm of Perm's texts. Perm historians and investigators of local law collected a lot of illustrations of originality of the Ural city. They like to speak well of Karl Moderach, one of the first governors of Perm. In the time of Moderach, the principal town of Perm province was adorned with the lovely Bank Street, the Windrow and the Boulevard. Multiple wanderers, writers, scientists who passed Perm by or lived here for some time conceived of it either as quiet placid Styx or as a European city. A writer, Melnik of Pechorsky, said, "Whatever one says, Perm in Holy Russia is not the last spoke in the wheel." This street occupies the major part of my soul. It is filled with special sense and substance. This is one of the oldest streets in the city. Now it bears the name of a founder of Marxism science, but till 1920 it was called Siberian. Here the town finished with the outpost and the country gardens. For a long time it was mournfully famous throughout Russia as a monarch road to Siberian penal servitude. It is impossible to count all convicts who went along this road. Among them there were people like Radishev, a famous historian, Dostoevsky and lots of other convicted folk. When a child, I saw my native street more closely. I did not suspect that the puppet theater is the former transit prison, that in our time thousands of Stalin's Gulag prisoners waited for their fate in the sheds.
Здесь ждали своих участей тысячи узников ГУЛАГа.
However, the life went on, the city lived and grew bigger. The works of the artist Kovalenko recently would have been defined as typical characters in typical circumstances. However, this quotation from Engels is not the matter, but the point is that this is the truth. What people, what faces, what characters, thank God that they were. They left us their fortitude, proudness and sincerity as a heritage. They plowed, smelted steel and defended the motherland.
Они пахали землю, варили сталь, защищали Родину.
As a symbol of peace, here stands a famous Russian tank of the Second World War, which went its way from the central Russia to Berlin. Let this cannon only to the sky. Time retains one thing and takes leave of the other. It bends vanity of human deeds to the nature and the life itself. Then the town talks to us in the language of eternity, which joins the past and the future. An old street is again full of sound of the past, as if a ball is held in the noble assembly, which was built according to a project of a famous Russian architect Svyazev. He dreamed to build the northern Urals Petersburg. As if the sound of voices is heard in another Svyazev's building, the school for children of clocks. Diaghilev family lived in this house. The history is recreated by the efforts of Perm residents. Sergei Diaghilev went along Sibirskaya Street to the Peter and Paul Street to a male gymnasium. That time, in the 80s of the last century, nobody ever expected that Sergei Diaghilev would be a unique artistic personality, that he would be famous throughout the world for his ballet seasons, that he would support the talent of such brilliant dancers as Václav Nijinsky and Sergei Lifa. Now back to Siryanov's pictures. Pushkin wrote in his letter to Barenkov, "History is long, life is short." The installation of the monument to Pushkin turned out to be a long story. Eventually, the decision was made to place it here, on the Sibirskaya Street, near the former Siberian gates. Reminiscences of short life of the poet spin like in a waltz. His friends went along this road to Rechensky mines. I recall that in the 60s, in the years of Khrushchev's fall, here there was no dancing. As for monuments in our city, the things were not so easy. The place of the monument to Tatishev was very much debated. Now the bust of the founder of Perm is placed in the former fiscal chamber, which now is the residence of the city administration. In his papers to Peter I, Tatishev wrote about the improvement of state affairs. We should eradicate evils, offense, lies, hatred and hostility in the Russian folk. There were many people who left marked signs in foundation, formation and prosperity of Perm in the last century. The owners of shipping companies, copper plants, salt works and different merchants. They were sponsors and did not spare money for the theaters, hospitals and orphan asylums, Kamenskys, Alins, Kribushins and Lubimovs. Operations of smart and enterprising people turned into public good. Such merchants as Ivan Lubimov adorned the town with buildings of rare architecture and contributed to turning Perm into a big port city. Lubimov built at his mechanical and shipmaking works the first marine steam schooners for navigation in the Caspian Sea. The plants built in the end of the last century or in the beginning of this one still serve the native land. The works named after Dzerzhinsky, the first KGB head, which earlier belonged to Lyubimov in the 20s, supplied the country with milk separators. Later on, the plant became famous for its petrol chainsaws. Settlements and new districts appeared around the plants. Matoviliha is one of the most unique districts of Perm. Craftsmasters live here since old times. They built solid houses, the streets and a lot of their names did not change. Matoviliha residents worked at the famous cannon works. Matoviliha is almost as old as Ekoshiha settlement. Nikolai Slavyanov, an outstanding Russian engineer, the inventor of electric welding, lived and worked here till his last days. Craftsmanship of Matoviliha cannon makers who cast their own Tsar cannon has been handed down from generation to generation. The technical college named after Slavyanov, at the walls of which he was buried, is a homage of Perm residents to a great scientist who was marked with a gold medal at the World Exhibition in Chicago. Since my youth I was charmed by the magical words "University Town." The Perm University was raised by the whole community. Yet it owes its appearance to a famous public man, the owner of a shipping company, a millionaire, Nikolai Meshkov. If all his buildings at Zaimka stipulating that the university would always remain in Perm, why remain? Because the university was founded on the basis of Yuriev Tartu University, evacuated in 1915 from the Baltic region. The first rector and astronomer Pokrovsky told, the territory where the Perm University was the single one that time stretched from Volga to Siberia and from the North Pole to India. An outstanding mathematician, Alexander Friedman, had his investigations here. He made a correction in Einstein's theory and suggested a new mathematical model of the universe. An academician, Pyotr Kapitsa, called his idea of the so-called scattered universe one of the most significant discoveries in astronomy. Alexander Genkel was a brilliant botanist and polyglot. He knew all European languages. He translated into Russian Utopia by Thomas More and The City of Sun by Tommaso Campaniello. Genkel founded the Botanical Garden and the Hot House as a pledge of possible triumph of beauty and intelligence. For many years, Perm and the Urals were inevitably involved into the activities of the university and into the spiritual atmosphere created by it, which was more important. This is what the magic of the expression university town implies. Many other high schools in Perm appeared on the basis of it. The Medical Institute was founded in 1930 from a faculty of the university. The surgery school, based by the academicians Oparin and Stepanov, now is headed by the academician Wagner. Talent, intelligence, and culture are necessary components of what may be called the phenomenon of creative work. These features attract people's artist of the USSR Yevgeny Shirokov most of all, surgeon by the grace of God Sergei Smolyankov. Some of the most brilliant personalities of the cultural history of the city, Boris Nozarovsky and Sava Ginz. The special high school for culture was established in our city. Is culture a collective way of life, or a flood of ideas which comes from a personality to a personality? One may refer to a simpler definition made by Vladimir Dal. Culture is a mental and a moral substance. When, how a modern style of Yevgeny Panfilov is born. Panfilov is a choreographer by the grace of Lord. The existence of the professional ballet, the classical school, made it possible to stage Panfilov's charming and amazing performances. The Perm Classical Ballet School and the Perm Choreography College trace their history back to the glorious Leningrad Ballet College. The Leningrad, Moscow, Perm schools of choreography. These are stable terms. However, I always mark out the school of Lyudmila Sakharova, a people's actor of the USSR. It was she who presented the Russia land and the whole world with such ballet stars as Nadezhda Pavlova, Olga Chenchikova, and Galina Rogozina. She brought up dozens of ballet dancers for the ballet theaters of the ex-USSR. Classes in the morning and the theater in the night, the academical opera house named after Tchaikovsky. The performances and concerts. In the concerts, the apprentices, actors and masters are together. How versatile the culture is, it is salutary for all of us. Pavel Solovyov, this brilliant, talented designer of aviation engines, lived classified for a long time. Pavel Solovyov thought of fame and eternity less of all. He worked. Thanks to such people, Perm played a very important role in the history of the national aviation. Anatoly Soldatov is still remembered by old workers of a big plant till recently named after Sverdlov, and by those who worked with him in the 50s. It was not easy to cope with this stern and willful person. However, thanks to him, the Sverdlov district is one of the best. Perm is obliged to him for the straight arrow of Komsomolsky Avenue. Vladimir Radkevich has a poem, The Sky of Shvetsov, a designer of aircraft engineers in the 40s. The poem could be undoubtedly referred to the life of Soldatov and Solovyov, and to those hundreds and hundreds workers of the engineers building plant. I believe that to stand for ages, cities should be constructed of people's lives and not of concrete. My city is dear to me because here lived and worked Shvetsov. The war tested his aircraft engineers and people for strength. His engineers were required as bread. The pilots told, "Thank Lord and Shvetsov."
И небо, как голод Свинцова, ложилось на плечи страны, и были моторы Швецова, как хлеб и как воздух нужны. В подбитой машине тревоги и смерть, и огонь испытай. Спасибо Швецову и Богу, говаривал летчик Галай. Вот так и шагала былина средь облачности синевы, весеннему небу Берлина от зимнего неба Москвы. В ней годы ни строчки не смыли. Летит поколением вослед биение конструкторской мысли, бессонница огненных лет. Конструктор не звание, не должность, а жизнь человека. И в ней уральских моторов надежность, надежность рабочих людей.
In 1841, a British geologist, Frederick Murchison, discovered the Perm system. The legend Perm, adopted in 1880 at the International Geological Congress in Bologna, is just a geological term. At the place of a prehistoric sea, which some time back existed here, there is a Nile bed, and the name of the city gave the name to it. Perhaps, not accidentally, in Perm appeared an industrial giant of present days, the Nefty Oryxintis refinery. In the pictures by Yuri Lapshin, I suddenly noticed the connection between the pulsation of underground blood and modern thought of a designer. An amazing unity of the fantasy of the artist with the poetry of production. This is not a winter fairy tale. These are waste treatment facilities of Nefty Orgsintes. The giant of oil processing takes the ecological problems of the city to its shoulders. Iskra Scientific and Production Company opens now the curtain of the secrecy. The first customer of Iskra was the academician Korolov. The names of the outstanding scientists Mikhail Cherulnikov and Leo Lavrov are connected with Iskra. The company is proud of its involvement in designing and creation of Buran Energy. One of the pillars of the defense industry is the motor-restorating plant, which remains its leadership in the production of the civil and military engineering. Huge scientific and engineering potential, immense expertise in the development of space technologies, and the unique machinery enabled to create the products which have no analogues in the world, such as the aviation fuel tank for liquefied gas. In the nearest future in Russia, there will be helicopters equipped with the tanks with the trademark of the machinery-restorating plant. The time flies outside the window of the artistic studio. Many years have passed since the time when this monument appeared in the center of the city. According to a legend, several meetings of the Regional Communist Party Committee decided which place the monument should be faced, either the Regional Committee or the girls of the city. Now they stand together, as we all live together in the city. The governor, Karl Maderach, governed Perm province during 15 years since 1796. His intellectual measures resulted in closer ties between the local population and the people of other confessions, who considered themselves as foreigners. This information is given us by Dmitry Smyshlyaev, a famous Perm investigator of local law. These facts provide the food for reflection for the present, because the international politics of Maderach, who was a native of the Baltic land, produced a wholesome effect on the neighborhood of Tatars, Bashkirs, Germans, Jews, Udmurts, Ukrainians, and people of other nationalities. In 1918, commissars entered the room in the hotel where abdicated Grand Duke Mikhail Romanov lived and produced the writ of attachment. Then he was shot together with his English secretary, Johnson, without trial and inquest.
Вместе с его секретарем-англичанином Джонсоном. Царскую династию пресекали на Урале.
The artist Kovalenko, more than 20 years back from now, saw Lenin in this way. The insight of the artist is always startling. Who knows, maybe tolerance or wisdom of Perm residents may explain firmness of these monuments. These are demolished and broken into pieces in many cities and countries neighboring to Russia, but continue to live here despite the sharp changes. Life is full of changes. We will not guess where this will lead to. In the 30s, a Swiss architect, Hanne Meyer, one of the founders of Bauhaus, a progressive architecture school, applied the latest construction ideas, and according to his project, a large powder plant and the city of the future Zakamsk have been built. One of the founders of the home powder industry, a distinguished scientist, David Galperin, lived with hope even in a prison design bureau under Stalin. He, as well as these people at the meeting on the Victory Day in 1945, paved the way to communism. However, the satellite town stands at the bank of Kama. They have built it bright and beautiful. This is also a family. A meeting with it makes the soul of a city resident warmer. We long for harmony. We miss it. It is so delicate and helpless. Here is one more fact from Perm historians and local law researchers. Once, the high roads of Perm province were so perfect that foreigners who had seen roads of France and Germany were amazed. We were paving a road to the outer space. Creative artists in the 60s and 70s tried to make the appearance of the city nobler. How much the talented artist Revkat Bagaudinov has done and how much was not realized. Karl Moderach was lucky. The layouts of the present Opera House garden and the country garden were left intact. You served Russia for many years. All the world knows about it, but your own countrymen, Тютчев. Germans always lived in the city. The history of Ego Plant started from that very day when the master Zimmermann has taken a big sample of copper ore. He became the first foreman of the Ego Plant. Dr. Gral was famous throughout Russia. Germans were managers, foremen, doctors and engineers. It has been known that in Russia, since the time of Peter the Great, construction of Catholic temples was banned. Lutheranism was officially allowed, but Catholicism was not. However, Perm was an exception. Since the time of insurrection in Poland, disgraced Poles were banished to Perm. After the insurrection in 1868, Poles were especially numerous. For them, the Polish Roman Catholic Church was constructed, which was designed by Karkowski. The heritage of Ivan Sviazhev, an architect who descended from serfs, is the buildings in the classical style. His beautiful rotunda was built for the visit of the sovereign Alexander I. The Church of All Saints, a unique wooden building, is the only one in the town, which remained intact after the October Revolution. A building of architect Dutil in the modern style is a former secondary school for girls. Now it is one of the biggest agricultural institutes in the Urals. During Stalin's repressions, the Perm Agricultural College managed to save many genetic scientists. In this building there is an amazing contrast of interiors and styles. Dmitry Smyshlyaev was an honorary citizen of Perm, a historian, a well-known member of elective local council, one of the founders of library law in Perm province. Now, the library, named after Gorky, is one of the most significant book depositories in this country. It contains lots of rarest editions which brought the fame to the Russian printing and which are the pride of the Russian literature. A special section is dedicated to the books of the Perm printing house, which itself is a particular page in the culture of the city. Here stored are the books by Leo Davidichev, Leo Kuzmin, Alexei Reshetov, Vladimir Ratkevich, whose names are known not only in Russia. Here are some lines from a delicate and sophisticated lyric poet, Alexei Reshetov. The apple of the eye, my motherland, what am I without you, without wide groves, without a line of Pushkin? I cannot leave, I will vanish from anguish. Or these lines, when museums are closed, when it is dark outside the window panes, the portraits return to life. These are often remembered when one enters the vaults of the cathedral. It houses for more than 70 years one of the leading arts museums of this country, the Perm Arts Gallery. Its collection is extensive and includes the painting, graphics, applied arts by the Russian and Western masters. The city, the gallery and the land take a special pride in the collections of the ancient Perm arts, the famous icons of Stroganov style and the wooden sculpture, Perm's God. In this city is given to the Perm Scientific Center of the Russian Academy of Science. Here preserved are the traditions of Perm scientists in the fundamental investigations. The Polytechnic High School, originating from the university, now spreads out on the other side of Kama like a town. The main building is at the central square of the city. Mikhail Dedukin, a great personality, beloved by all generations of graduates, was the founder of this institute and the students' campus, which is called Complex. Today, the complex also serves quite young Lyceum students who will study in the institute. Healthy, smart and sound shoots are so required in Russia. The body and character become stronger in the snows of Russia. Perhaps it was Mikhail Dedukin's dream to grow up a new generation, joined harmonically with the nature. Straight out of the city there is Perm Stud Farm, which is an oasis of harmony with the nature. The glory of the farm is directly connected to the name of its former manager, a true master, Alexander Sokolov. He rightfully held the title of a hero of socialist labor. His farm made the best showing in Perm and Russia. Today, the farm is in the reliable hands.
И сегодня конезавод в надежных руках.
My city now lives by reviving the traditions of Russian manufacturers. There are people who lay tomorrow not with the words, but with the actions. For instance, Energoinformatica Engineering Center has a wonderful project of turning the attics of the houses built in Khrushchev's days into convenient, reasonable apartments. True business starts with problems as everywhere in the world. Some fancy shops appeared in my city. Here, one may find goods to any refined taste. Happiness is when one wants to go to the job in the morning and home in the evening. This was said by a smart guy. It is very simple. I like evenings. This is the best time of the day as the best season of weather. My friends' actors work in the evening halls. My friends' spectators are their guests. Vladimir Danilin is the world champion of conjurers. The opera house is movingly beloved in the city. This is not by chance. There are not so many cities in Russia where in the theaters performances of high grade, both ballets and operas appear. Each evening the halls are full as perhaps nowhere in Russia. When we met at the jubilee of our city, I caught myself at the thought that here the people of the 21st century gathered, who will live their life in Perm and for whom Perm is the native home, the support and the fate. Julius Auster, an artist and a painter, told that one cannot choose the times, but one lives and dies in times. For me and for my dear fellow citizens, our beloved city will remain the sweetheart motherland forever.
Сердцу Родины.